The 19th century marked the beginning of the Progressive Era, a time of profound social, political, and economic reforms aimed at addressing the ills brought about by industrialization. Amidst this backdrop of change, a battle of ideals was brewing, one that would epitomize the struggle between the unchecked powers of monopolies and the force of investigative journalism.
Enter Ida Minerva Tarbell. Born on November 5, 1857, in Erie County, Pennsylvania, Ida and her family quickly faced grave struggles when the Panic of 1857 came. As more and more banks collapsed, the Tarbells lost their savings. But the Tarbells' fortune would turn as the Pennsylvania oil rush began in 1859, which would soon be a turning mark in Ida's life. While one of the townsmen were drilling, a flame sparked natural gas from a pump, blowing up and lighting fire to the town. As they tried to shield her from the brutalized corpses, she was able to catch a glimpse of them in the night, traumatizing her for life. As Ida grew up and she moved on, Ida's father, Franklin Tarbell, became an oil producer and refiner at the dawn of the Gilded Age. John D. Rockefeller, a 21-year-old bookkeeper, showed up in Pennsylvania, overtaking the oil market and abusing control over the market to put her father out of business. As she witnessed a shell of her former father, she would later vividly recollect these events and would fuel her perpetual obsession with the downfall of Standard Oil.
In 1902, she embarked on her journey to expose the Standard Oil Company founded by Rockefeller. Sam McClure, an American publisher and muckraker, having read Tarbell's The Paving of the Streets of Paris on how the French carried out large public works, brought Tarbell on board to write books and magazines about Standard Oil. Given her critical skills, McClure assigned her to start Standard Oil's decline. Tarbell, in a discovery, was able to find one critical piece of information that had been attempted to be concealed, a book called The Rise and Fall of the South Improvement Company, which highlighted Standard Oil roots in the South Improvement Company's illegal schemes. This marked the start of the muckraking era in American journalism. Another brick in the story came from within Standard Oil itself and proved that the company was still using illegal and shady practices. An office boy working at the Standard Oil headquarters was given the job of destroying evidence that railroads were giving the company advance information about refiner shipments, allowing them to undercut the refiners. These papers were eventually passed along to Tarbell in 1904. These events were recollected in her book, The History of the Standard Oil Company, which was published in 1904, in which she exposes the numerous unfair business practices that Rockefeller used. The book went on to influence the government and allowed evidence to prosecute Standard Oil in violating the earlier Sherman Antitrust Act. Thanks to her book, Standard Oil would eventually go on to be broken up in the 1911 court case, New Jersey versus United States.
Welcome to our new segment, Wrap the Hap. Back in the day when oil reigned supreme, Standard Oil on top, living the dream, a monopoly massive across the nation wide. In every home and street, its presence can't hide. But hold up, there's a twist in the tale. Ida Tarbell steps up, she's setting sail. With a pen in her hand and truth in her heart, the history of Standard Oil, her masterpiece art. Yo, audience, it's a warning shot, fired in the air. To the big corp standing tall, better be aware. A lesson to learn from Rockefeller's game, don't follow in those footsteps, don't be the same. The purpose is clear, to show the world monopolies can fall. Tarbell's pen became the weapon, breaking down the wall. This political cartoon, a powerful decree against laissez-faire in favor of antitrust victory. Ida Tarbell, with distinction, she rose. In a sea of lies, for truth she chose. This political cartoon, let me break it down. It's got a message, wears it like a crown. Against monopolies, laissez-faire, it frowns. But antitrust laws shine, claiming the crown. Tarbell's praise through Standard Oil's demise. Big scale destruction, can't disguise.
She, along with other muckrakers, would go on to purchase the American magazine in 1906. In it, she authored many biographies about businessmen and discussed the heated topics of her day, tariffs. President Woodrow Wilson would even go on to say, she has written more good sense, good plain common sense about the tariffs than any man I know of. Additionally, in her book, The History of the Standard Oil Company, she would specifically detail the schemes that Rockefeller used. In this quote from Ida's book, she illustrates the predatory tactics employed by Rockefeller and his partners, highlighting the monopolistic practices that allowed them to dominate the oil industry by securing preferential rates from railroads, thus stifling competition and consolidating their power. Tarbell's breakdown of Standard Oil can be compared with today's antitrust case against Microsoft in 2001. The government ruled that Microsoft had acted unlawfully under Sherman Antitrust Act in the court case United States versus Microsoft Corp. By monopolizing the PC market. Although the case in 2001 was not as successful as Tarbell's, her effort to break that monopoly set a precedent for companies to come in the future, shown through Microsoft.
Tarbell was, however, considered a highly controversial figure. Unsurprisingly, the primary opposition to Tarbell's work came from the very entities she sought to expose. John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil, along with other powerful corporations, viewed Tarbell's investigations as a threat to their dominance and profitability. They employed various tactics to discredit her, including launching smear campaigns, filing lawsuits, and attempting to intimidate her sources. Interestingly, she also opposed the women's suffrage movement, stating that if women got involved with politics, it would be more corrupt. This also had her significant oppositions from the individuals of the women's suffrage movement.